In this video, I am going to convince you that Francis Ngannou will go down as the most influential fighter in the entirety of Dana's tenure as head of the UFC. To understand why, we need to correct the record of what actually happened between Francis Ngannou, Dana White, and Jon Jones. There are too many lies, half-truths, and outright misunderstandings that have muddied the waters of reality. We need to first start off by clearing those waters and getting to the bottom of exactly what occurred over that 2-year span. Our story starts as Jon Jones wins his final fight at light heavyweight. While interviewing Jones immediately after the fight, Joe Rogan informed Jones of the magnitude of his record-setting performance.
Not only did you win this fight, but you now have won the most championship fights ever in the history of the sport, so congratulations for that as well.
Thank you, man.
Right after that, Rogan asks for an update on Jones's long-promised move up to heavyweight.
Now, Jon, you've speculated about going up to heavyweight. You've talked about your future. After this fight, is that what you want to do, or are you thinking that maybe you want more fights at light heavyweight, maybe even possibly a rematch with Dominic Reyes?
You know, I'm going to have to talk to my coaches and figure out what we're going to do. Tonight I got...
Jones goes on to semi-deflect to discuss the presence of his grandmother by his side, but importantly makes no indication one way or another of his future intentions. But let's skip ahead one full week to get a better look into Jones's psyche at the time. Jan Blachowicz, in his post-fight interview after defeating Corey Anderson in their rematch, had the following to say.
With a big victory, you could earn a potential light heavyweight title shot. The guy's right there. You want to tell him something?
You promised me that in the show when I meet you. You are next. Let's do this. Tell me when. Tell me. Give me the place and time.
To me, nothing about this interaction hints that Jones is done with his days at light heavyweight, but plans always change. With the massive upheaval caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, all the UFC's plans were shaken up and new decisions had to be made. Okay, so for starters, I'm going to have to censor profanity in multiple instances because YouTube will undoubtedly remove this video if I don't. That aside, let's skip forward to May 28th, 2020, specifically to an interview Dana did with Brett Okamoto that seemed to ignite the initial spark of the rift between Jones and the UFC. For the amount of money Jon Jones is asking for, it's not going to happen. You couldn't be asking for a more absurd amount of money at a worse time. Jon quote tweeted that initial interview and stated the following at 7:56 p.m. the same day. It's interesting to just sit here and watch your boss lie to the camera like this. We never discussed any increase in pay. Immediately the conversation was that I already made enough. I never made a number offer. 2 minutes later, he tweeted the following. If you're not going to change my contract for the heavyweight move, at least have the decency to be honest with the fans. 3 minutes later. I was over the situation, but I'm not going to sit back and allow Dana to lie to the fans. I never asked for an absurd amount of money. That's 1 minute later. Absolute. Jon took a little break from tweeting on it to post a video of him biking, but his anger was not fully released. At 11:53 p.m. that same night, he continued with the following. I'm not going to give up hope the way I'm taking this whole thing is, at UFC don't want to budget the Jon Jones heavyweight move up right now. They should have just said that. Lying on me and saying I asked for too much. It's just unfair. That was unnecessary. 3 minutes later. You already let me down a bit by shutting down this Francis mega fight. Don't add salt to the wound by telling the fans something that's not true. 4 minutes later. If you're wondering, I'm not fighting with the UFC. I'm not mad at Dana or beefing. Just surprised he went that route. I said my piece. I'm over it. At this point, all was quiet on the Western Front. That was until the next afternoon. Dana addressed the situation with the media before UFC on ESPN 9.
Well, speaking of money issues, can we ask about Jon Jones? I mean, he says that you're not being truthful about what happened.
Yeah.
He wasn't asking for an absurd amount of money. What can you say about that situation?
Yeah, it's fun working out in the gym in the morning, seeing tweets from Jon Jones saying I'm lying. We have text messages from Jon Jones. It's not like I can't prove what I'm saying is true. We have text messages from him, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put his text messages out in the press. I could. If Jon Jones wants to sit down and take a lie detector test about who's lying and who's not, we can do that too. So, I don't want to go there with this guy. The guy's made a lot of money. Made a lot of money. If you look at Jon Jones' track record Show me somebody that has the track record this guy has and has made the money that Jon Jones has made. Doesn't happen. You know, and it's not like I'm out here on some smash Jon Jones crusade. I like Jon. I'm the one actually saying there is no debate. There is no argument. He's the GOAT. You know, no matter what you think of his last 2 fights, the 3 people that matter said he won the fight. So, you know, the guy's gone undefeated. He's fought everybody. He's fought all the best in the world, despite what he's been doing to himself outside of the octagon. Going through legal battles, you know, drugs and alcohol, all the things that's gone on with Jon Jones, he is still the world champion, you know? I mean, I don't know what else to say about it.
Dana then specifically addresses what the conflict in the tweets was about.
I know you don't like to talk hard figures, but can you give us an idea, like a percentage-wise or something? Like, what kind of increase was he asking for that you say is absurd? He says it never even got discussed.
I'll quote him and what he had said to my lawyer. Told my lawyer he wants what Deontay Wilder was paid.
What was that? I don't follow the boxing purse. Does anybody know? 25 million?
I think it was 30 million.
First off, remember that figure, $30 million. That will be incredibly important going forward. Let's see what Jones had to say next at 4:22 p.m. the same day. If you're going to stick to these lies, I'm going to stick to defending myself. Please have your lawyer, Hunter Campbell, release those text messages. 2 minutes later, don't be a f***ing liar. My reputation has already taken enough hits. I don't need this Dana. I never asked for Deontay Wilder numbers. And how about since Deontay is making $30 million, we settle for half of that? Since you said I'm the GOAT and everything, 16 minutes later. And if I wanted to compare money to someone else, I would compare money to my brothers. I see firsthand the way the NFL treats their champion athletes. There's a huge difference. I've kept my mouth shut my entire career. 3 minutes after. Do I make 5+ per fight? Yes. Should I stick to that number for my super fights? No. If you don't agree with me, you just don't know business. I certainly didn't ask for 30. Never even threw out a number. Then he posted more biking videos. Things quieted down again until Dana reignited them a day later in his post-fight press conference.
And last thing for me, obviously yesterday you spoke about Jon Jones, and then as soon as you finished talking, he basically tweeted out saying that if you want to, he'd like you to show those texts that you supposedly have, and still basically saying that you're not telling the truth about the interaction. Any plans to show those texts?
What do you do? Who do you believe? It's up to you guys.
No.
Fuck would I lie for? What do I gain in lying about it? Why would I lie? It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You know, obviously he's fired up right now, and he had a great talk yesterday with Hunter, my lawyer, who's, you know, he's really close to Jon Jones and likes him, and they have a good relationship, and they had a good talk yesterday. But you know, it is what it is. I really don't care. I could care less, to be honest with you. So.
Like actually a good talk, like actually a good talk, a positive talk, not.
Yeah, they had a good talk. They had a good talk yesterday. Those guys are tight. Jon Jones and I have always had this, you know. I'm always looking at what Jon Jones could have been, you know. He could have been the LeBron of the sport. He could have been literally that big. You know, the stuff that he's been through to show up and think he, you know, basically demand $15 million or $20 million or $30 million. It's crazy. So he can do whatever he wants to do. He can sit out, he can fight, he can whatever, you know. You know how this works. You guys know how I am. Jon Jones can say whatever he wants publicly. It's his God-given right here in America. He can say whatever he wants. And when he's ready to come back and fight, he can.
I saw a lot of people saying, like, why can't he make Deontay Wilder money? I mean, like you said he's the greatest of all time, right? So,
being the greatest of all time doesn't mean you get $30 million. Being able to sell. Jon Jones has done a lot of things to himself. He's saying, in one of his tweets, he was saying that I tarnished his. I tarnished you? You've done a very good job of tarnishing you. No, I haven't done that. You know, Hunter told him, I'll walk in, you can come in here and walk through the numbers. I'll walk you through all the numbers. And he says, I don't give a fuck what the numbers are. I want what I want, and that's it. It's not how life works. Why don't you guys fly back and tell your boss, I don't give a fuck what this company makes. This is what I want. You're going to give it to me. See how that works out for you.
Interestingly, Dana directly stated that Jones spoke the day prior to Hunter Campbell, who is chief legal counsel of the UFC. Undoubtedly, Jones called Hunter to debate the veracity of the back and forth he and Dana were having. Dana really paints a picture there of a sort of good cop, bad cop strategy between he and Hunter with Jones. Jon goes on a multi-day tweet rampage, going back and forth between posting on politics and the situation with the UFC. I will highlight a couple key tweets that I see as essential before we move forward in time. First, Jon denies the legitimacy of the texts. He complains about Dana's unprofessional actions of taking negotiations public before threatening the UFC to release him if he so overpaid. He even directly states he would make more money in a boxing match if released. Finally, for this tweet storm, Jon appears to retire from MMA and anoints the Jan vs. Reyes fight as the new undisputed light heavyweight champion, but doesn't officially relinquish his title. I think it's really important to take a moment to analyze here. Based on all public accounts, it seems the negotiation went as follows. Jon again repeated his interest in moving up to heavyweight, but wanted to gain a larger payday, the numbers of which are completely obscured, leading to Dana taking the negotiations public, creating a rift between the UFC and Dana's self-proclaimed greatest MMA fighter of all time. Whatever your feelings of the characters involved, it is hard to argue that Dana's actions were professional. By any normal standard, in any large business of the UFC's caliber or greater, actions like Dana's are a massive no-no. But hey, it's the fight game, right? We now move forward in time a couple months to the night of DC and Stipe completing their trilogy. Jon was live tweeting his thoughts during the fight, effectively bringing himself back into the limelight. A very smart move on his part. In the immediate aftermath of DC losing and officially retiring, Jones began tweeting that he had officially decided to move up to heavyweight. No doubt a dig at his former rival in order to take attention away from DC getting his flowers at the end of his historic and legendary combat sports career. This specific tweet I consider to be essential to the long term of this story. We can gather that Jones is already planning a fight with Stipe for the title and is using his tweeting during the event to create some buzz around the prospect of his debut occurring versus him. All the while, though, a predator lurks in the shadows, intelligently attempting to not let this opportunity go to waste. Francis then shifts his attention to Jones, recognizing the opportunity to put his own backing behind Jones's proposed super fight concept while also playing down Jones's want to face Stipe next. Francis then goes silent. No response from Jones. Let's see what Dana has to say in his post-fight presser.
Obviously, we're not going to matchmake tonight, as usual, but Jon Jones jumped on Twitter and said, coming to heavyweight, I'll see that title soon. As you sit here, does that make sense, a heavyweight title fight for Jon Jones, or you got Ngannou out there who certainly believes that he's next? Is there something that stands out to you right now as like, this would be the way to go?
Francis is definitely next. You can't jump over Francis. Francis has been out there destroying everybody. And if you look at how long ago it was that he got that title shot, he's worked his way back. It belongs to Francis Ngannou. But yeah, Jon Jones going to heavyweight is very interesting.
So the boss's words are heard. Francis is next. Importantly, Dana says one other thing, though.
With Jon Jones, I know you said in an interview yesterday that you were waiting for a reply from him about the light heavyweight title.
That's the first thing we heard from him right there, is on social media.
That he wants to go to heavyweight?
Yeah.
You say Ngannou's next, so would you rather he defend the title and then move up if he wants to, or do you guys still have negotiations to work out? Because I know things aren't the best between you at the moment.
I don't know. There isn't anything I'd rather have him do. The guy either wants to fight or he doesn't. If he wants to fight, he'll let us know, and if he doesn't, he won't.
The Monday after the fight, August 17th, 2020, Brett Okamoto tweets the following at 2:22 p.m. As stated in the tweet, the details, specifically if it's for a unified title, are still to be worked out. Less than 2 hours later, the following tweets from Jones. Jon Jones' term as light heavyweight champion is now at an official end. After months of speculation, he officially vacates. 1 day later, on August 18th of 2020, Dana says the following at his post-Dana White Contender Series press conference.
some obviously outside contender series news. Yesterday, Jon Jones announced he was vacating the light heavyweight title. Is that official? Is that?
It's official, yeah.
Okay.
So I actually, tonight while we were here, I went live on SportsCenter in between one of the fights and announced all that.
So Dominic Reyes, Jan Blachowicz for the title?
Yeah, it's for the vacant title.
Okay, cool. Jon then said, negotiations starting with you guys about heavyweight. Is that true? Could that be his next move?
Well, I know that Jon right now wants to take time and do things that he wants to do. I mean, if you follow him on Instagram, been doing a lot of shooting. He likes to work with these attack dogs and lifts a lot of weights. And I think he's having fun, you know, living his life a little bit. And I think when this whole heavyweight thing plays out, we'll see what works for him.
So is that the move, having Ngannou versus Miocic and then see if Jon can slip in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the right outcome is going to be or the right, you know, but we'll see.
Cool.
Dana confirms the news, directly states that Jones isn't yet preparing for heavyweight, and overall doesn't offer us much more information on Jones's future. 4 days later, Jones tweets the following. The Predator implies Francis, whose nickname is the Predator. All goes quiet again. The UFC has implied that Stipe vs. Francis 2 is their next move, and nothing to the contrary is indicated. A couple months later, Dana says the following.
And speaking of that Volkanovski-Ortega fight, along with the report of that coming out today, there was some talk of maybe Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou being the main event for that March 27th card. Where do we stand on that?
Is it March 27th? Is it done? You did it. Congrats.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
The rematch is now official. 2 months later, the fight occurs, and Francis wins in spectacular fashion. At long last, Francis is the UFC heavyweight champion. Not one to allow a fighter to get their flowers without inserting himself into the conversation, Jones has been live tweeting the event.
Now, I want you to enjoy this, and I want you to celebrate this victory, but I also want to talk to you about the future. Jon Jones sent a tweet out. It said, "Let's play, baby." What do you think about a potential, another one was Show Me the Money. What do you think about a potential fight with one of the greatest, if not the greatest, mixed martial arts fighters in the history of the sport, Jon Jones, now moving up to heavyweight? That will be your first title defense.
The two tweets show that Jones is interested, but also is still looking for that raise. A key takeaway for you, the viewer, is the following. Notice how Francis responds to the opportunity to fight Jones.
Absolutely. I mean, for my opinion, Jon Jones is the greatest of all the time for mixed martial art. And him moving up is going to be a good thing. It's a challenge that I will take and put it on my record. Would be a very good challenge for me, very good thing on my resume. But this time, he's going to be the challenger. I am the champ. He's coming up and looking for me. So I'm ready. Anytime soon, you know, even summer, I'll be here, ready to fight in July or August, whenever they are ready, I'm ready. He said something like, show the money, and we go, baby. I'm here.
Francis, that will be one of the biggest fights, if not the biggest fight in the history of the sport. Congratulations, sir.
One other key point, Francis said he would fight Jones in the summer, whether July or August. But what did Dana have to say about the situation?
Dana, new heavyweight champion of the world. Pretty impressive stuff from Francis Ngannou. I mean, I think everybody's still soaking it in, but give us your initial reaction to that.
Yeah, no, he looked damn good. He looked incredible, man. And obviously you saw a lot of things from him tonight that we hadn't seen from him in the past. Head kicks, leg kicks, really good grappling, takedown defense, scary.
Yeah.
Next, John Morgan asked Dana his thoughts on Jones being the next fight for Francis.
And I got to ask you what appeals next, right? Because Stipe, we talked about it, greatest of all time. We said if he loses, he'd probably deserve a rematch. But, man, the idea of a Jon Jones fight seems awfully exciting right now. And Jon came out, tweeted, said, show me the money. What appeals to you most? Because it seems like that would be an amazing super fight.
If I'm Jon Jones and I'm home watching this fight, I start moving to 85.
But that wasn't all.
You think that's a fight that you'd like to put together next? I mean, sure. I know we don't matchmake, but that sure does seem exciting.
Listen, I could sit here all day and tell you, you know, what show me the money mean? I tell you guys this all the time. If you can say you want to fight somebody, you know, but do you really want to?
But back to the man of the hour, Francis Ngannou.
Is it also an added bonus that, you know, Francis tends to finish his fights really quickly, so he can be more active than we've seen the heavyweight title picture been for the last few years?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is that Francis likes to stay active and Francis likes to fight. At the press conference the other day when we were talking about, you know, he'll call and just say he wants fights. Just give me somebody, I'll fight. So the guy likes to stay busy, he likes to be active, he likes to fight, and he's fun to watch.
Unsurprisingly, Jones was watching and responded to those prior comments in real time.
Hey, Dana, back here to your right.
Yep.
I guess Jon Jones is watching. He tweeted since you've been up there. He said, "Go to 185. I didn't gain all this weight for no reason." Laughing face.
I like it. That sounds serious. That sounds serious then, John. Call Hunter right now. We can make that fight tonight, John. Call Hunter right now.
Key to that last part. Call Hunter right now. We can make that fight tonight. The follow-up is important for our next point.
That's the fight to make, would you say?
What's that?
Jones and Ngannou is the fight to make, right?
Well, Derek Lewis is the fight to make. But if Jon Jones really wants that fight, listen, it's one thing to go out and tweet and say you want it and I put on the weight and I did this and that. Do you want the fight? I promise you. We can call Derek Lewis or one of these other heavyweights and they want the fight. If Jon Jones really wants to fight, Jon Jones knows he can get the fight. All he's got to do is call and do it. Like I said, it's easy to say you want the fight, but if you really want the fight, Francis Ngannou is the heavyweight champion of the world right now. All he's got to do is pick up the phone and call Hunter and we can get the deal done. Again,
Dana reiterates, all he has to do is pick up the phone. I am speculating, of course, but I imagine that if Jon had called, Lewis vs. Ngannou 2 would have been scrapped immediately. Dana then is asked an interesting question about where the next fight for Francis will be.
Hey Dana, with the star power of Francis Ngannou and cities opening back up, is there an ideal location you'd have him have his first title defense?
For Francis?
Yes.
Where's his first title defense?
Yeah, an ideal location with cities opening
I don't know. We got to see as this stuff. You know, what I'm hoping is we go to Jacksonville, then we go to Texas, and then, you know, Vegas, and then we just keep rolling, you know, with full sold-out events. So, obviously, you know, Francis would be a Vegas, New York City, Fight Island guy, you know what I mean? One of those.
Of course, it's difficult for someone in Dana's position to plan due to the logistical challenges present during the pandemic. But he does directly state that Francis is a Vegas, New York, or Fight Island type fighter. But here is where our story takes a fascinating turn. After winning his title, Francis went to Cameroon to celebrate with his family, but also crucially for another important reason he outlines here in October of 2021.
Francis, if I would have talked to you on that trip, or even back in Las Vegas before you left on that trip, and I would have told you that your next fight would be in January in 2022, would you have believed me, or were you hoping to fight again this year?
No, I wouldn't believe you, basically, because as I said at the press conference, I wanted to fight in July or August. That's what I said, and that's what I wanted. But obviously, for some reason, because apparently we were going on a contract, and then right after that, they came to me and proposed me. I mean, this was on the April 1st. So 3 days after my fight, they proposed me June 12th. And I'm like, whoa, I cannot fight in June 12th. Why? Because I have a visa issue. You know that my visa need to be renewed on May 20th, and it's your job to renew the visa. So I'm not allowed in the US in June 12th unless I go back or out of the country to renew my visa, because I could not renew my visa in the US.
By his telling, the UFC wanted to have him fight in June because...
And they were like, no, we were just throwing out because you said you want to fight twice this year, so no problem. But I'm like, how about June? July or August. And they said, no, July and August is booked. So we are just throwing this out to you to see if you want it because you said you want to be active.
Francis indicates that the major sticking point was his visa status. He states directly that he needed to return to Cameroon to renew his visa, but also needed the UFC's assistance because it is a work visa. Ariel then asks Francis who the fight in June would have been with.
Okay, and just to be clear, Francis, that fight in June that they were talking about, that they wanted you to, compete in, was that you versus Derek Lewis? Was there any talk of you versus Jon Jones back then? What did they offer you?
No, Derek Lewis. They never talk about Jon Jones. Never.
Okay.
Because ever since they said, ever since I won the fight, and the talk was like Jon Jones is scared to fight. I mean, the promises that the winner of Stipe and I will fight Jon Jones, but no talk was about in that direction.
Brett Okamoto's reporting backs up Francis' account of events as well. Quote, the UFC tried to book an undisputed title fight between defending champion Francis Ngannou and Lewis in June. What I want to do now is outline the titular 6-day span that completely shook up the UFC and has had monumental consequences to this very moment. On June 23, 2021, Ariel tweeted the following. UFC hoped to book Francis Ngannou vs. Derek Lewis 2 for August 7th, but that is currently looking like a long shot at this point, sources say. Scheduling conflicts. Nothing finalized at the moment, but September is now a new target, I'm told. June 26, 2021 at 6:12 p.m. If they can figure out Ngannou Lewis and then can figure out Jones fighting the winner in Q1 2022, the truth is that means Miocic Gane should be next. Only other fight that makes sense for Gane. Winner fights Ngannou Lewis, Jones winner. This tweet came in the direct aftermath of Gane's victory over Alexander Volkov by dominant decision and was considered by many as the logical next step. At 3:31 p.m., Brett Okamoto set off a cascade. Derek Lewis will face Cyril Gane in an interim heavyweight title fight in the main event of UFC 265 on August 7th in Houston, per Dana White. A little over an hour later, once it was clear Ngannou couldn't fight on August 7th, he was asked and accepted September 25th versus Lewis, sources say. UFC went with the interim title on August 7th instead. Just under 2 hours later, quoting Ariel Helwani, regarding today's interim news, you'd be shocked how often they threaten this and or how often they threaten to strip. And while most of the criticism has been directed towards Dana White, he is the face after all, it's really been the MO of Hunter Campbell since he took over. 2 minutes after that. For those that don't know, Campbell is the UFC's chief business officer. He took over shortly after the sale. The sale he's referring to is to Endeavor. He does most, if not all, the deals these days. Some love him. He's a lot more like Lorenzo in that he isn't emotional, but he also threatens to strip constantly. And finally, 3 minutes later. Think of him as the UFC's general manager if they were a sports team. Yet he never speaks publicly or has to explain moves like a GM would from time to time. Good gig. Anyway, some enjoy dealing with him, but this is right up his alley. It happens way more than fans think. So ask yourself this. What could have happened in that 6-day span that caused the UFC to commit to such an abrupt about-face in their matchmaking? A decision of that magnitude made in those 6 days is inarguably a rushed one, but we don't know why it was so rushed. No one to this day knows for sure aside from Dana and Hunter, but whatever occurred led to immense consequences that the MMA fandom seems to have completely missed. This is bigger than Francis leaving the UFC. Much bigger. I will show you what we are missing over on my personal YouTube channel, MMAI. The full video will be out very soon.